Thank you for joining us for this interview, Michelle. Could you start by introducing yourself, telling us where you work and what it is you do there?
So my name is Michelle Bazanson, and I am a senior research scientist with Eurofins CDMO Alfora. So this is a huge global company. We have laboratories all over the world. Mostly Eurofins is known for testing almost any field you can think of. So Eurofins acquired Alfora Research a few years ago during their expansion into manufacturing. We manufacture APIs. So that's active pharmaceutical ingredients. So when you have any sort of drug, there's a lot of things in it. There's only one active ingredient in a drug. So that's the API. We have also recently expanded our capabilities at Eurofins Alfora into drug products. So the fillers as well. I'm responsible for developing the chemistry into a process that would then go into manufacturing.
What was it about Eurofins Alfora that attracted you to them?
I was always very interested in going into process chemistry as a career. I find process chemistry very fascinating. When you work in medicinal chemistry, like that side of pharmaceuticals, you make just a slew of compounds that will never ever get beyond just being made. So there's a lot of work that goes into medchem. I kind of wanted to get into the industry at a later stage where the compounds are already really promising.
So what do you enjoy most about your role at Eurofins Alfora?
But one of my favorite things, when you look at the big picture of pharmaceuticals, that you are doing something just so incredibly important. People have a better quality of life because of what you do. Depending on what you're working on, it's like you're saving lives. It's really inspiring. I know that it's so easy to forget every day, but when you really think about the big picture of what you're doing, gives you that reason to like get up and go every day.
What sort of opportunities did you participate in while you were at McGill? And thinking back, like how has that affected you in your current career?
There's a couple things that I got to do while I was at McGill. The first one was fairly early in my career. I took part in a 6-month internship at a company that was it was called Epigenetics. This was an opportunity that was funded through an NSERC Engage grant, which encourages academic industry collaborations. At the time, there was 4 chemists and the president, Jeff Halbert. So 3 of their 4 chemists had spent many years of their career already at AstraZeneca. And so I learned a lot from talking to them about what big pharma was like, but then also from working with them at Intellicin at the start of it, you got a really good idea of what it's like to work at a startup, which is very drastically different. Much later in my graduate career, I applied for a grant called the Clark Self Grant. So that's a grant that allows people to participate in the executive development course that's offered through the McGill Executive Institute, part of their mini MBA program. So there's 3 courses that are part of the mini MBA program. So this is the first one of the 3. And it was an interesting opportunity to be able to learn essentially the fundamentals of business. It was useful to leave academia with a knowledge of like the vocabulary of business even, but also things like, for example, in academia, you get really far when you are very good at science, but that doesn't mean that you know how to, figure out a budget. That doesn't mean that you know how to buy what equipment for your lab and how to prioritize your projects. These are skills that you would typically learn more in industry. And it felt like participating in that program kind of gave me a foot up. I didn't just come in to industry not knowing any of it.
For those interested in an industry style of R&D career, what are your thoughts about doing a postdoc after graduating before applying for jobs?
I think that is a completely personal decision. I think that it offers you an opportunity to hopefully go to a new institution. Don't do a postdoc at the same place that you did your PhD, or at least not in the same lab. You'll expose yourself to a new institution where you get to learn a lot about how a different institution works. You get to expose yourself to new chemistry. You get to expose yourself to new researchers, expand your network a lot. These are all really, really valuable things about doing a postdoc. For industry, I don't think that it's necessary at all. I know definitely Eurofins Alfora, but also several other big pharma and small CROs will hire directly out of grad school. Not to say that there's no benefit, but I wouldn't think of it as a necessity at all.
What are your thoughts on work-life balance? How do you achieve your own, and how has that evolved since graduate school?
Thoughts on work-life balance it's obviously incredibly important. My thoughts on that have certainly changed since grad school, where it was valued a lot less. It was almost nothing to just work 7 days a week, late into the night. So it was really refreshing, actually, when I first started at Alphora. We, not surprisingly, there's a lot of security issues in the pharmaceutical industry. So we can't just, have access from anywhere. So when I left work, I couldn't do paperwork from home. So it was really a nice hard cutoff when I left for the day. I don't want to say that, I never ever work in the evenings now or on weekends, because certainly I do, but it's nothing compared to what I did in grad school. It's incredibly important for your mental health. The expectations in academia are sometimes unreasonable.
What skills do you think are underdeveloped in graduate school that are critical in an industry job?
I cannot say it enough, time management. By far the most slap in the face kind of thing that you really have to figure out when you leave. You have so much freedom in grad school to work on your own schedule, to get results when you want them. That is not the case when you go into industry. You have to be able to plan your day strategically to meet those timelines. There's no real consequences in grad school, but there certainly is in industry. If you can't get your work done in an 8-hour day, then you're doing something wrong with your time management. How much work do you want to get done in a day? And how long does that typically take you? And does it have to take you that long? Because you shouldn't be doing 12-hour days.
What advice would you give to new grads who are interested in applying to Eurofins Alphora?
First piece of advice is make sure you have a nice resume. You want a nice, clean CV. I wouldn't worry too much about having a long CV, but it is important that you stress what your competencies and your skills are. But we would, invite you to give about a 45-minute lecture on your research. We would then follow up with a few minutes of questions. And then you would go break off into smaller groups with our leadership team. And they would really kind of try to suss out whether or not you would be a good personal or cultural fit within the team. We're not trying to trick anybody. It's not a quiz. And it is very much you interviewing us as well. If you don't get a good feeling from us, then it's probably not going to work out. We do hire all different levels. We do hire people with just bachelors. And if you're interested in working at Eurofins Alphora, I would really recommend that anyone just apply. Or you can just reach out to someone in the R&D department on LinkedIn or something if you're looking for information. Everybody, they're all very friendly people. I'm sure they would respond and give you the information that you need.
So what do you miss most about graduate?
Miss Montreal a lot bit, but also I miss the people that I went to grad school with. It's such a fun time to have. You spend so much time with these great people who are, they become some of your best friends. I really miss just that day to day, hanging out with these people. I miss seeing them every day. So socialized. That is the most excellent networking you're gonna do in your life.
If you could go back in time and give the graduate student version of yourself one piece of advice, what would that be?
It's really easy to suffer from imposter syndrome. You really are an expert in your field. Nobody knows more about your project than you do. You can go up to a professor and have a conversation about chemistry, and they certainly know a lot and can have some great insight, but you need to remember you know more than they do about your project. And you need to just remember to have that confidence, and having that confidence is really important. Remember that you know this, and you are smart and talented and knowledgeable, and you belong here. It's such a frustrating thing because almost everybody has it. There's no reason. They're as excellent as other people see them. And you just don't see it yourself. It's insane. Yeah, I was no, you are just as great as them. That's why you're in the same place.